Alicia, I think we can start.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
Well, welcome everyone to our January chapter meeting. We're so excited to have you out with us, or virtually out, in but out. We do want to first let you know that we are using a new platform to conduct our meetings. It's going to give us a lot of opportunity for flexibility and to do some awesome things in the future. But this is our first event with our new platform. So please bear with us if we might have some technical difficulties. Please just, and if you are experiencing any issues, feel free to put those things in the chat and we will work with you to resolve those issues. So again, thank you so much for your patience and for bearing with us as we roll out this new platform to make the experience better. All right, with that said, I am going to turn it over to Craig, the VP of Membership, to give us an update.
Hey guys, great to be here tonight. Glad you're here. Just have a quick membership update. Tonight our membership is currently at 523. So that's great. We're down a little bit. We think COVID is affecting our membership as well as everything else. So, but we do have 4 new members. So I don't know if they're here, but Brittany, Lisa, Jesse, and Perry, if you're on the call, welcome. It's great to have you. So new members are always good. We also have some anniversaries to acknowledge. I'm not going to acknowledge everybody. We got a lot of 1-year anniversaries, so a lot of people joined up last January. So it's great to have you guys still with us. And we also have some 5-year, 10-year, and 1 15-year. So Ellie, Remy, Nicole, Roxanne, and my eyes are challenging, Maria, Kathy, and Renee. You guys are all here for multiple years, and Renee, glad you've stuck with us for 15. So that's great to have everybody on, and that's the membership update.
All right, thanks so much. All right, we just want to remind you of our social media presence. There are lots of ways for you to connect and engage with us on Facebook. And so please go out to Facebook, look for the PMI WIC Facebook group and join and engage with us there as well. I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl, our VP of Communications, to talk about some exciting opportunities coming up.
All right, take myself off mute and put my camera back on. Hey, let me know, there it goes. All right, yeah, so I will actually have more information coming in February. We are kind of looking to increase the size of our team, but looking for some specific skill sets. I have a presentation to give to the board in our February meeting, and so I'll have more details coming after that, but we'll be primarily looking to migrate away from our G Suite platform to Office 365 for business premium for nonprofits. That's a huge undertaking. So I'll be looking for resources who would be interested in helping us migrate from a G Suite over to Microsoft platform. So let's see how that goes. But more information to come in February, so stay tuned.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you.
All right. And then some other things that are coming up in February that we want you to know about. Our volunteer coordinator, Ben Williams, has been working with the Idaho Food Bank and has set up a quarterly volunteer opportunity. The next one is coming up in April, so pay attention to that date, and we would love for you to join us and volunteer. Our next Lunch and Learn will be in February. The date is being finalized, but the topic is pretty interesting. How to adopt a troubled project, and it's by one of our board very own, the VP of Professional Development, David Wilson. So stay tuned for more information on the February Lunch and Learn. And then in February, our next speaker will be from Lumen Technology, talking us through how Lumen is not just a phone company anymore. So Eddie Franklin will be our presenter on during our February meeting. So plan to attend that one as well. It's always good to hear about project management in different arenas. So excited about that upcoming.
Hey, Tanisha, so Ben's actually on. Do you want him to speak at all to some of the nuances associated with the volunteer opportunity at Idaho Food Bank?
Oh yes, that would be great if he's on. I would welcome him. Welcome him to the stage.
Can you all hear me? Can you see me? Good.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a really cool opportunity for the Idaho Food Bank. It's in some ways April was the earliest that we were able to schedule a volunteer because the community has really stepped up and helped out the Idaho Food Bank so much that they're actually surplus of volunteers, even though the need is so great. There are all 10 spots available for volunteers. So because of COVID precautions and everything, a group can have up to 10 people. So please don't delay in signing up for that. I know it's kind of a little ways out. It's more than a month, but it looks to be really purposeful and rewarding. So I hope to see you all there and more people as well.
Great. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
All right. There is an opportunity to join our board of directors. Application deadline is February 28th, and I know that we've been sending that out via email. I know that our president is on, Janelle. Not sure if you'd like to talk about these opportunities that are available. Is Janelle still there? Can she hear me?
She looks like she's not muted, and she's on the panel, so I don't know.
Okay, I'll give her just a moment because I'm sure she'd like to share a bit with the attendees tonight about these opportunities that are available. So I'll see if she can work through the technical difficulties. If not, is there anyone else who is currently on board who'd like to talk through these opportunities?
This is Colleen. I can discuss it.
Thanks, Colleen.
So each year we have each year the board rolls, half of the board rolls over. Most board positions are 2-year terms, and what this picture is showing you is that you have a staggered rotation. So for this reason, we have we conduct elections every year, and so I think this year it's time for the VP of Publicity, VP of Communications, and the VP of, is that Professional Development, Cheryl? I can't see the slide very well.
Yeah, so the slide is a little bit distorted. Yes, it's VP of Membership, a VP of Finance, VP of Programs was last year. This year is VP of Publicity, VP of Communications. Who's that? Oh yeah, that would be me. And VP of Professional Development.
Okay, so those 3 positions are up for elections this year, and also we would be electing another president-elect, right? Because that happens every year as the presidents move through the 3-year cycle. So as you see there in the middle, we have president-elect. That's me, right? For this year, our president is Janelle this year, and our past president is Vicky. So Vicky will roll off, and then Janelle will succeed her as past president. I will succeed Janelle as president, and then we elect a brand new president-elect every year. So the 4 positions that are up for election this year are VP of Publicity, which is currently held by Karen Hardesty. VP of Communications, currently held by our Cheryl Bishop. and VP of Professional Development, which is currently held by Dave Wilson, and then President-elect, which is currently held by myself, Colleen Soller. So if you're interested in any of those positions, I encourage you to contact any of us, and we will give you more information on what the role is about and answer all your questions. And then the deadline for, sorry, just to emphasize, the deadline for applications is February 28th, so that's coming right up. Oh,
thanks, Colleen.
Yeah, you're there.
Okay, testing. All right, there's my test. Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
I see what's going on.
Oh, I guess this is my slide too. Sorry, guys. Is this the PDD slide? I lost.
Uh-oh.
Did we lose
We
Tanisha?
lost Tanisha.
It looked like she lost audio. Maybe she's dialing back in.
Okay.
And here she is again. All right, let's readmit her. And she's back. You're back.
Okay. I was here all along, but it acted like it kicked me out. So you guys couldn't hear me, but I could hear you. Hopefully you can see my screen again. Sorry for that technical difficulty.
No worries. No worries.
Yes. Okay. So this is our professional development day for 2021. It's going to be our first virtual professional development day. Registration is now open. So you go out to that website link and click on PDD 2021. It will bring you to a registration page. And the last I looked, we had 38 folks registered so far. It is March 5th from 11:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we have a wonderful event planned for you guys with keynote speaker Brian Fretwell, who is he has a TEDx talk out there, and he's a great speaker that we had him lined up for last year's event, but of course we had to cancel due to COVID. So he's coming back for us this year, and we're really excited about it. We have 9 wonderful breakout speakers, and you have an opportunity to earn up to 5 PDUs. You can get that 5th PDU by submitting a white paper, and there's a link, there's instructions for how to do that on the registration page. So if you're, I believe the deadline for submitting a white paper is coming right up. So if you're interested in doing that, please get that submitted right away. Other than that, if you attend the whole virtual PDD, that'll be 4 PDUs, 4 hours worth of really good content. You may have seen the mailers that are coming out weekly on Wednesdays, and we're giving you guys little teasers about the speakers, the breakout speakers. So that information is coming out already, and we are now just, wrapping up on the final preparations for the day and getting really excited about Professional Development Day. The cost is $40 for members, $60 for non-members, and we have a $10 student rate if you provide a valid student ID. Let's see, I think that's all. Did I miss anything, team?
Sounds like you got it. Thank you, Colleen.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. And then I know that Becky, our VP of Finance, was not able to attend tonight. Janelle, I don't know if you would like to share anything on this slide. Hopefully you can. Yes.
Yep.
Can you guys hear me now? Okay. I will certainly try. So I think what the key takeaway from this slide is you can see we're at the end of 2020, we had $63,000 on hand, and that's mostly because, you know, we've not had any of our dinner meetings. We haven't really been spending a whole lot of money this previous 6 months, I would say, since COVID, maybe almost up to a year. So I think that's what the biggest, you know, why we have such a bump up, because, you know, we have some money on hand because we're not spending right now. So we'll start to see that fluctuate, and probably we'll start spending a little bit more money as we move into this new year. We've got some events coming up. We've got a new technology platform that we're looking at just to make it better for us and easier. And so I think you'll start to see some changes there too. The other thing is boot camps are starting up again, and that will, you know, that always helps us a little bit
but
too.
we're in good shape financially.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
That's right.
Janelle. I appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. At this time, we are getting ready to turn to our speaker for tonight. Tonight's speaker is Stephen Hill. He is going to talk to us about project management for nonprofit organizations. We want to remind you that this, your attendance here does make you eligible for 1 PDU. We have the information on the bottom, and so that the forms I think will be sent out to you. How do they get the forms now, Cheryl? How do they do this?
So that's a great question. So I don't have any way out of this tool to send it. So I think we're going to have to go old school, and we'll just get a list of all the attendees from this meeting. And we'll just send out an email like we've done in the past with an attachment. Now, there'll be a video recording of this, and I believe I'll be able to download that and put that onto our YouTube channel. And so what we'll do with that is just email the link. So once the YouTube video is available and I have a link for you, then I think we would go ahead and comprise an email with an attachment of Stephen's presentation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that. So just to let you know, this will be interactive. So we want you to participate. We want you to participate by putting comments in the chat. We can also invite you to share your comments, and we'll be doing that as well. And so without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
I'm sorry, one question. Should we use the chat in the event or in the session? I'm seeing chats in both the event and the session.
And the reason you see chats in the event, Colleen, was because before the session opened up, that's where people were chatting. Right. But yeah, we should probably stay in the session at this point. It's a little confusing because we just have one session and the event is obviously if we had like 9 sessions going at one time, and then so
but let's just make a decision. So let's just do our chats in the session.
Right, chats in the session. But I will say that Stephen at some point is probably going to point folks to the event side of the panel because there's a poll there he's going to want folks to participate in. But I'll let him direct folks over there when it's time.
Okay,
cool.
All right, awesome. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are excited to hear from you. So when you're ready, you can share your screen. I've stopped sharing.
Okay. And Tanisha, can you sort of moderate for me? Because once I share mine, I won't be able to see the chat when I do the full presentation. So would you mind kind of watching the chat in case questions come up?
Absolutely. Cheryl and I will watch together.
Okay. So let's give this a shot here. Share screen. And this is a new tool for me as well, so I've tried to keep it fairly simple for tonight, so there won't be a whole lot of dogs and ponies as we go through it. But I do want to share my slides with you. Okay, so just let me know if you can see my slide presentation.
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's coming. It's coming. There it is. Yay. Congratulations.
Good. Thank you. I also can't see myself, so I apologize if I start moving around and things like that. I try and stay still as much as I can, but I do appreciate your patience. Well, thanks everybody for joining. I just wanted a few minutes. This was a conversation that started a while back with Tanisha, just kind of talking about how project management for working for nonprofits and not-for-profits might be a little bit different than traditional project management. So we thought it might make a nice little session. It's by no means a definitive overview of project management for not-for-profit organizations. Really just something to kind of spark some conversation and to talk about some neat stuff we did in the past that folks may be interested in revising going forward. So with that, hopefully that moved to the next slide. Did it move to the next slide?
It did.
All right. Okay, great. A little bit about me. I surprised myself when I noticed I've been doing this for about 26 years. It started when my son was born, so he's 26, so that's easy to figure out. But I've been working mostly with nonprofit organizations, although the organization I belong to now is very much for-profit, but most of our clients are nonprofit. So most of the folks that I work with on a day-to-day basis are nonprofit organizations. I've been a PMP since 2013, and we moved here in 2008, and I joined the PMI local group here almost immediately, and have been really enjoyed working with this group for a number of years. I also, as I said, most of the clients I work with are higher education. I also teach at BSU. I do an online project management course for their multidisciplinary program. I've been doing that for about 5 years now. I work for a company called Ellucian, and we work with higher education. We do software solutions, so pretty much enrollment, billing, finance, grades, all the good stuff wrapped around higher education. That's what we provide. And we are in worldwide. We've got over 2,700 clients, and we've been in business for about 50 years. I myself have volunteered for numerous volunteer organizations, and probably like a lot of you, most of them were tied to my kids. Cub Scouts, cheerleading, chaperoning, band boosters, all those good things. Now predominantly working with my church and choir, and then helping out where I can with our PMI local chapter. So when we talk about not-for-profits, and also I think there's a slight difference between a not-for-profit and a nonprofit. Generally, a nonprofit is focused on earning revenue, but not so much for shareholders. So it's earning revenue generally to pour back into the organization, whereas a not-for-profit is typically defined as an organization that's not really focused on earning revenue. It's focused on meeting a goal, serving a mission of some sort. But I think most of us recognize that throughout the industries and throughout publications and the media, not-for-profit, nonprofit, those are pretty much interchangeable. So throughout the presentation, I'll be using both terms, so I won't get too deep into the various differences there. But one thing I do like to break out is the difference mainly in size between nonprofits. Because we have certain nonprofits like Boise State, St. Luke's, St. Al's. These organizations, although they're nonprofit, generally have a fairly robust project management organization. They've got something in place. They do formal project management. Also, when you look at smaller groups such as Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, the local chapters may not be doing a whole lot of formal project management, but at the national level, their main offices typically do have some degree of formal project management. So a lot of what I want to focus on with this conversation are working with those smaller, less robust, less sophisticated organizations when it comes to project management, and defining what it is that project management can do for them, why it's beneficial, and how they may be able to use it, and perhaps why they're not using it. But before we go too far into it, we do have a poll. I think it was mentioned, Cheryl mentioned that you have to go to the events section. But basically, it's just a quick poll just to see how many of the folks on the line currently have done project management or are doing project management for nonprofit organizations. So Tanisha, can you keep an eye on the poll for me, and maybe we'll just give folks a couple of minutes to fill that out?
Sure.
And while you're doing that, I will mention, I looked it up yesterday. According to the National Center for Charitable Statistics, there are over 1.5 million nonprofit organizations in the United States. And that's counting the main organizations, so that doesn't even count the smaller chapters that are underneath that. So nonprofits are a huge part not only of our economy, but of our social fabric. And that was a little surprised when I looked at that. I did not expect the number to be nearly so high. How's the poll looking, Tanisha?
All right, so looks like we've got pretty good participation. Looks like 73%. Or 75% now have indeed managed projects for either nonprofit or not-for-profit organizations, with 25% not having that experience.
Okay, great. And I also, like I remind my students, a lot of times we get wrapped up into thinking of project management experience as working in a PMO, in an office, using Microsoft projects. If you've helped run a bake sale, you know, for your church, or you've helped Girl Scout cookies, a lot of times you may not realize that you're doing project management. So a lot of times that number may bump up. People don't even realize that they're incorporating what they know of project management into a not-for-profit organization. Well, here at PMWIC, I don't know if I'm allowed to call it that, but I've always referred to this as PMWIC. We actually had a history of working for nonprofits, and that is setting up project management support pro bono to help out nonprofit organizations. So we actually we had a gentleman, Brian, who was with us a number of years, put together a curriculum that was geared towards nonprofit organizations, and he had a number of folks that helped him do that over about 2 years. Really built almost a textbook of nonprofit project management tool set. We put together a model, and we opened that up for nonprofits to apply, and we had several that did. I think we helped about 6 organizations where we actually sent in a core of volunteers with materials and gave them about a 6-week, once a week overview, kind of a quick class on project management and how project management can benefit them, what they can get out of it, and how they're already probably doing it, they just didn't realize it. So really giving them a common set of vocabulary and tools to use. But down the road, really, we had a lot of interest within our group. We had some great stuff put together. The only thing missing was a large interest from the community, from the nonprofit community. There just wasn't, nobody was beating a path to our door as we kind of hoped they would. We were really excited about finding a way to give back to the community. We thought, this is what we do, this is what we can offer. But we didn't really get a whole lot of interest. And so looking back on that, and again, this is not a scientific survey by any means, but looking over my notes from working with the teams that helped put this together, some of that lack of interest, I think, may have come from basically a lot of the groups that could use this the most were stretched the thinnest. So they did not have a lot of time and resources that they could commit to this, or didn't feel they could. They were 2- and 3-person shops and didn't really feel like they could commit to the once-a-week class, to the homework that we put into it. All of this really was to help build up a project plan template that they could use for other projects. They all did projects, but then some of them, their projects were already pretty successful. That's why they were in charge or leading the nonprofit. They had been able to be successful at doing some projects, so they didn't really perhaps see a need for a formal project management delivery. Others probably thought it was common sense. You know, it came easy to them. For a lot of us, project management may have been a natural fit, and we didn't know we were doing it, but we started as kids. We were planning ski trips for our pals in high school. We were doing project management. We didn't realize it. There was an opportunity cost involved, so you did have to give up an evening. And we did ask for a full commitment. So if you signed up and started it, we wanted to complete the program, and I believe it was about 6 weeks. And then also a resistance to change. And we see this, I mean, even in our own lives. Most of us get used to using something like Zoom, and then when we have a new tool to use, it's a bit of a learning curve. It's a little scary. We've got a lot of other stuff we're trying to do. It gets in the way. And so part of it may have also been a resistance to change. And I just wanted to pause for a moment and invite anyone in the chat if they were part of that delivery. And I'm thinking this was probably about 3 years ago where where it kind of petered out. But I just was wondering if anybody on the in the meeting was a part of that. So Tanisha, can you check and see if anybody comments in the chat?
Yep, I'm watching.
All right. And this runs till 9 o'clock, right?
So Stephen, I think 4 people just fell out of their chairs. What?
No, like I said, I didn't prep a lot of dogs and ponies for this. It's a fairly simple slideshow because my first time with this tool, so it will definitely not go to 9 o'clock. I just wanted to see if anybody was listening.
They're listening now, that's for sure.
So if you see anybody pop up, Tanisha, if they'd like to speak to what we did in the past, that'd be fine. They don't have to do it now. But if somebody pops up during the presentation, feel free to interrupt at any time.
Sure will, no problem.
All right. So based on my experience, what I've seen, what works with project management with nonprofits, I work, like I said, most of my clients, they're colleges and universities. The vast majority of those are nonprofit. They can be private or public. I work with state systems that have 130,000 students. I work with a private school that has 68 students. So, you know, I've got a spectrum there. The larger institutions typically have a full-fledged PMO. So it's the smaller institutions that need the project management the most. So some of the things I've seen that works with those, but also that worked when I was in charge of the band boosters, when I was I think it was called a pack master for Cub Scouts. Some of the things I saw that worked, relying on the soft skills of project management. This is a piece of project management that basically has gotten short shrift. It's been shunted to the back. In fact, it's at the back of my textbook that I use at BSU. And everyone says it's very important, but like flossing teeth, no one really seems to really enjoy digging into it. A lot of us that get into project management really enjoy some of the tools, some of the science of it, some of the mathematics and the templates and things like that. That's kind of the way our minds work for a lot of us. But trying to bring in the participation of folks that aren't quite of that same mindset, it can be difficult. And so what I'd really like to see, and certainly with working with nonprofits and those that have a lot of volunteers, is pushing that to the front, focusing on the soft skills, looking at things like what we talk about in the text as currencies, organizational currencies. So trying to find out what it is that motivates the folks that are working for you, whether they're volunteers or a lot of folks that work in nonprofits. They may be getting paid, but usually the pay is a little bit less than what they'd be getting in the for-profit sector. So there's perhaps another reason why they're part of that organization. Trying to find out what it is that motivates them, and it can be different for different folks. So I think sometimes the reason soft skills end up getting pushed to the back a little bit is because, frankly, they're hard. This is one of the hardest parts I've found of project management, is being able to recognize what motivates this individual versus this individual, and learning how to use that to persuade them, to help them, to make them want to do something so we can accomplish a common goal. Certainly persuasion is going to be preferred over dictating to folks what needs to be done. A lot of times the folks I work with, they don't work for me. They have other folks they report to. You may be in a similar situation. It's a bit like pushing on a string, just trying to get them to want to do something, to think of it, have them think of it as their idea. It's very challenging. It's very rewarding, but it's one of the harder pieces of project management. So some things that I've found work when I'm working with my clients who aren't familiar with project management, simplifying the forms, giving them a template, not a full-fledged risk matrix with all the wonderful details that we like to see, the graphs, putting together something that's very simple that they can see and in a matter of seconds understand and see how it's valuable to them. So simplifying those forms, looking for smaller wins, helping them, coaching them to get over some hump that they've been working at internally, trying to bring somebody on board, trying to get something taken care of, helping them get those smaller wins. A lot of times, I hate to use the term servant leadership because a few years ago it got really run into the ground, but really you're a coach. You're having to lead much more than manage when it comes to working with the nonprofits, is what I found. Maintaining a good line of communication, staying in touch with them frequently, and for the most part, avoiding a lot of the PM jargon that we use often on a day-to-day basis. When you get into critical path and helping them understand what a critical path is, they may be less interested, but you can put that into terms that they can best understand. Basically saying what piece is dependent on other pieces and needs to get done so we can continue moving forward. So again, this is a challenge, but this is one of the things that I found works with the nonprofits and working with volunteer organizations and smaller organizations. When you're working with a group, and if it's like like Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, something that's tied to a national group, they're going to push stuff down. A lot of times what they push down from their project managers is going to be often fairly technical. And when it gets to the local group, it's going to go to the side. They're focused on the things that they need to get done. So trying to find ways to help them use those tools can be highly beneficial. And then building trust, I mean, that's just part of project management in and of itself. Helping folks understand that you're going to be there, that you're going to follow through. When you're doing the food bank, that you're going to be the first one there at 7 in the morning with some coffee for folks. You're going to be the last one to leave and make sure everything, that builds a huge trust, and that really helps encourage those folks to participate and to continue participating, because oftentimes what we find is the folks that are putting in all the effort into these nonprofits, putting in all the effort into a volunteer group, they're busy people. They may be retired, they may be homemakers, but they stay busy. They're doing all kinds of stuff. And so, wanting to encourage them to continue helping out the organization, continue following through, having successful projects, is building that level of trust. And then part of that too is just checking in on them. These groups, you're dealing with, I have a client that has a 2-person IT shop. And that's, because they work on weekends and nights, they're very thin. And so kindly checking in on them, seeing how things are going, seeing what I can do for them, but really kind of babysitting, kind of making sure they're following through, that they're staying on track. Again, kind of coaching, making sure that the things I need them to get done for their project that I'm helping them accomplish are getting pushed to the front and pushed forward. And if there's obstacles, even internal obstacles, I'm doing what I can to help them get around those. And then I mentioned the organizational currencies. But I'd invite folks in the chat. Some of you, I think you said we had about 75% of folks said they had worked with nonprofits, including volunteer groups. What are some things that maybe I didn't mention that you've seen that have been helpful in being successful with these groups?
And I am watching the chat to see what our attendees say.
I feel like a late night DJ back in the old days, anyone call in, anyone at all, anybody.
Steven. And guys, this is Cheryl. Just a reminder, as Colleen had mentioned earlier, you probably switched over to the event panel to fill out the poll, but be sure to come back to the session panel to enter any chat.
I just want to say, Stephen, in my experience in doing project management for, I would say, what are we, Cheryl? We're a nonprofit.
We're a 501c6, so we're a not-for-profit.
Oh, so we are not-for-profit. Okay, not-for-profit. One of the things because you're working mostly with volunteers, right? So unlike my day job where I'm working with, paid employees that, are assigned to work on my project. In the case of the not-for-profit, you're working with volunteers. So it's a little different in that you need to motivate them differently, right? So you're not able to pay them, and so they're not beholden to you. And so you have to be careful about, barking orders and things like that you would maybe do with your normal team.
No,
And
you
so-
can't be large and in charge, right, Colleen?
Yeah, I can still be large and in charge, but I have to do it a different way. But yeah, so I mean, and things like, okay, when do you think you can get that done, or can you give me a time when you will get that completed, as opposed to I need this by this date, or things like that. So you have to be careful and really consider your audience, and you don't want to push away your volunteers, because volunteers are so hard to come by.
Couldn't agree more. And we do have some feedback in the chat. So Leanne says a growth mindset and realizing that what didn't work 3 years ago may work today.
Excellent.
Benjamin says identifying their end goal first and then lead the non-for-profit through the PMI process to reach that goal.
And that's an excellent point, Ben, because we often find these kind of groups, the smaller groups that don't have a formal project management process, these are the ones where scope creep is huge. Every project they start gets bigger and bigger, and usually that's why they end up failing. They can't complete them. So that's a great point, Ben. And if you're interested, when I heard talking about finding what motivates them, that organizational currencies, it's not in the slide, but I've got it in my slide notes, and it breaks out into different currencies. I'm using my flashlight to look at my notes here. Relationship currencies, personal related currencies, inspiration. Trying to find out why are they there in the first place, other than the fact their husband drug them there and made them help out unloading band equipment. There's a reason why they're there. They want to help out, and a lot of times they're anxious to help out. They really want to be part of what it is that they're there for. They're just looking for that direction. But if you can find out what motivates them, and again, it's often different for different folks, that can be part of the challenge. Any others come through, Tanisha?
No, not yet. Nope.
Okay, super. All right, well, in the interest of time, we'll move on to the final couple of slides here. Future for project management for our area not-for-profits. And this is just Stephen spitballing, just throwing something out there. I don't know if there's interest in reviving the original curriculum we had, or seeing if there's more interest, or if we can deliver project management to some of these less robust nonprofit organizations that sometimes need it the most. So I don't know if there's interest in there. It might be a conversation or something that we want to start up. Maybe there's a way to make it a little bit lighter, less than 6 weeks. Maybe it's an afternoon where we meet with the leaders of the organizations. I think we did that in the past, where we gave them a taste of project management, kind of got them excited about how some of this could benefit and help them be successful. So those are just some of the ideas that we kicked around in the past. And so I don't know, Tanisha,
yeah, we do have some interest. So yep, folks are interested in being a part of that.
How can we follow up on that? And maybe that's something for offline to talk about how we follow up on that. Is maybe we could invite folks to send in an email or something like that?
Sure. Yeah, I think, well, we can see their names here. I think maybe when we figure out how to send out all the other information, we can include a line in there, right? If you're interested in volunteer and working with non-for-profit organizations and non-profit organizations, and give them some additional direction.
Yeah, guys, we could do a form, a pretty easy survey form for them to submit a couple of questions on it, and that would create an Excel sheet with all the names and addresses, information on it that you need.
Perfect. Thank you, Cheryl.
Janelle, it looks like you unmuted. Did you want to jump in? Nope. Okay. Wait, there she is.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me? Whoa. So, yes, what Cheryl said.
Love it.
As far as a form and collecting feedback to see if anybody's interested.
I just have a question, Stephen. Was that Brian Butler who did the original?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Bless his heart.
Great.
He put a lot of work. I mean, there were a number of us working together. but he
I
was
think
really
Tom
the
Old
nexus.
was in there too. I think Tom, that was back when Tom Old was the chapter president. Yeah.
And so and maybe that's something we could send out to the group as a whole and see, or if we put together a core team. But anyway, I just was kicking it out there to see if there's interest. It sounds like there is. So we can follow up and see where that goes.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Some other resources, if you're interested, particularly a not-for-profit, there are. I grabbed one and I put it here, and we're going to make this the slides and this presentation available to you, so you don't. You can do a screenshot, but you don't have to worry about trying to write all this down. It is in the slides. There's a couple of good PMI articles and some smaller. If you Google, you'll find some smaller chapter articles that are out there. There's a slew of project management tools geared towards nonprofit project management, but there's a caveat. It's Google, and so half of them are going to be bait and switch. So you have to be pretty selective because they're going to try and lead you down to all kinds of stuff. But there are some legit tools out there. There's a group called Project Management for Change, and they're geared towards pro bono project management support. That I just learned a little bit about, but I found that it was kind of interesting, so I included that. And then there's also a book. It's more of a textbook, but if you're interested, project management for nonprofit organizations. I did find that on Amazon, and it looked fairly interesting. Again, if this is something that you're particularly interested in, or if you work with a lot of nonprofits, this might be of value to you. So, a little shy of 9 o'clock. We did make it through the slides, and so if you have any questions or need more information about this presentation, certainly can follow up with Tanisha or myself. We'll make sure the slides are available, and we can get that form out, that survey form for folks, and see if there's interest. But that is all that I've got tonight. So what I'll do is I'll stop sharing. And then if there's any further discussion or anyone wants to share anything, I'll open the forum up.
Yeah, that'll be great. And Stephen, again, thank you so much for putting this presentation together. I do have some questions for you. Just in your experience with working with nonprofits, how have you found it most beneficial to take kind of their strategic, right, their long-term big initiatives and help them to break them down into meaningful things that they can accomplish? Has that been a challenge, or have you had success? And it doesn't matter if you're working with bigger or smaller nonprofits. How is it working?
The smaller ones are more challenging because, again, the bigger ones typically have some sort of project management in place because they didn't get big by accident. So they've got typically something in place. The smaller ones, though, they have the big goal at the end that they're shooting for. They have lots of little pieces, but the little pieces are all over the place. And so helping them sequence them, I found, is what they need. Because they're trying to get through to next week. They're trying to get through to next quarter. They're trying to accomplish the next banquet or whatever it is that they're working on. But all the little pieces oftentimes are sort of disjointed. And so being able to help them tie that together, put it in a critical path, or at least sequence it so it makes sense and is doable, can be very beneficial.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're too busy to plan.
True. And I know that we said, right, there were some challenges, of course, working with nonprofits and not-for-profits, in that most of the people that we're working with are volunteers, right? And so they don't belong to our project teams, and kind of we don't have that same locus of control over their activities. What are some of the other challenges that you faced kind of mid-project besides scope creep? I know you mentioned that, but any other challenges that, do they just get exhausted? Do they just, wander off? What are some of the other challenges, right, that you've seen in working with nonprofits?
One big challenge can be not being prepared for the workload, and I mean the opposite of how that sounds. When you like, we did a volunteer thing at the doing turkeys this year. Everybody donated turkeys to St. Vincent de Paul, and we put all those together into big meals for folks to pick up. Now they had about 5,000 people come pick up meals, but one thing I noticed is when everybody showed up in the morning and there wasn't much for them to do, they started losing interest and kind of feeling like, you know, the fifth wheel. And so those kind of things I think can hurt your return rate as far as volunteers go. So being able to know, and again, that's project management, know when you need those resources, where they can be of help. And then I just found in working like with Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts is finding ways to help some folks stay busy, giving something that they feel is meaningful to do, delegating, and taking the risk that somebody may not get something done, and just being willing to jump in there if you need to. But I found most people, once you give them clear instructions, a deadline, and some encouragement, they'll typically follow through. But again, you still want to kind of trust but verify.
Yeah, that's good. Before I ask any more questions, anyone else have any questions, or are there any questions in the chat? Let me look in the chat. I'm just chatting away here. Let me look in the chat. Anyone else have any questions on any other questions? Oh, here's one. Okay. Are there larger organizations or groups specialized in such? So that's a question from David.
You know, when I did a search, because I wasn't sure, I did see that there were some groups out there. But when I looked into them, most of them were pay us and we'll help you kind of thing. There were more ads. But I'm almost sure that there are some out there like this, that one slide that I had, PM for Change. The quick glimpse that I gave that looked like it was something of that level, David, but I didn't look into it too deep. But I'm almost sure there are some groups out there that do this. But I apologize for not researching that further.
No, that's okay. That's something we can do, right? If this initiative with volunteering with nonprofits, you know, if we find that there's success there, right, and there's a lot of interest there, and we find some organizations to partner with, we can look into seeing what other organizations and groups are doing this and try to leverage what they have. And so I think that's a great opportunity for us, you know, as we potentially might move forward in reaching out. All right, Colleen says, in your experience, have you seen more waterfall or agile in use in nonprofits? That is an awesome question, Colleen.
Definitely waterfall to strictly traditional, almost Quaker-like in its tradition, because that's what most people are familiar with. If you go into Agile, and there is actually, I did see a book on Agile project management for nonprofits. So it is out there, it does exist. Now, some of the clients I work with, because we work in software, we're implementing and configuring software and servers and things like that. We will go into Agile, but they're typically the systems, you know, the clients that are robust and understand project management, and they have project managers on board. My smaller institutions, we may do some Agile stuff. We do stand-up meetings and things like that. I just don't call it Agile because they're not familiar with it, so I kind of pull back from the term. But from my experience, definitely waterfall is more predominant.
So, Stephen, in your experience in working with smaller non-for-profits, while they're obviously always accepting of help, right? Does the kind of the stringency around, you know, like the methodology of project management, even if you approach it more relaxed, are they more resistant to that? Does that kind of frighten them? Do they, you know, kind of back away from that? Or do you modify it in such a way that they don't even realize, right, that it's happening, right?
So you're talking about putting the my mom used to get meat paste that was made out of kidney and stuff, and she would put it between the bologna so we wouldn't notice. So, so sliding it in there, yeah. No, I think that's definitely a good approach. Yeah, it just depends on the organization you're working with and what they're trying to accomplish. But sometimes to make it palatable, to simplify it, to put it in terminology they use. I work in higher education, and so I typically use something that they would recognize from higher education as opposed to strictly PMI terminology.
Understood. Any other questions? Let me look in the chat. It's going to give a second in case someone's typing.
Sure.
Stephen, I did have
And I don't know if anyone.
I had a question for you. Has COVID impacted any of you, or has it caused any project failures?
Luckily, no project failures. It's had an impact on the projects, but they've been fairly positive. I've worked remote for 13 years now, and most of my clients all worked in offices, very formal. Now they're all working from home, so they know what they know what it's like. You know, used to people get upset if they heard my dog barking at the UPS guy. Now they have their dogs barking at the UPS guy, so it's balanced it a little bit. It's made people focus. They've had to really focus on what was important to the project. It's cut down, I think, on a lot of the politics, because you don't have a lot of the meetings after the meetings, and so it's streamlined stuff. So having said that, it's taken a ton of the fun out of it. You know, I used to go on site, work with clients, and like most of you, you enjoy face-to-face working, shaking hands, breaking bread with folks, and that's kind of, you know, we've seen that go away in many respects, and so that's kind of taken some of the fun and the energy out of it. But folks have responded positively, and I think in a way there's been a bit of a benefit. And I do see under the event session we had a few comments. Gerald had made some comments about his experience in nonprofits and his experience in leading volunteer groups. So I just want to make sure, Tanisha, that we're able to capture those comments that went into the event, just to make sure we have those for the overall.
Thanks for noting that. I'm in the session, and there's a couple more questions for you in the session, but let me pop over to the event because I might have missed those. Oh yeah.
Okay, and I can see the section now. So I do see Janelle asked a question about budgets, funds for special projects. Some groups have the funding is none. They're very thinly funded. That's most of your volunteer groups, the small groups. Most of my clients, they have decent funding. Convincing them to part with it or to use it for something that they may not. Sometimes if you're dealing with an IT group and they may not see the benefit to the soft side to having an event to bring people together, to help build trust, to help build teams. Sometimes that takes some convincing and some coaching to help them understand the value of that. So, but I think anytime you're dealing with higher education, budgets tend to be pretty tight until you get into the big guys, and then those budgets are usually pretty flexible.
Yeah, and I do see Gerald's comments now talking about some of his volunteer experiences in his flying club. It looks like he says that he helped to organize the selection of new planes using project management. He says at first he got the eye gloss, but pretty soon it paid such dividends that the whole board welcomed the outcome, and it communicated so well to the rest of the club. Both instances meant that he had to commit time and to be a servant leader. So right back to your presentation talking about the importance of servant leadership, especially when you're working with volunteer and non-for-profit organizations.
That's excellent. And then that's a huge win, because then folks see the value in it, and it's a much less hard. It's easier to sell it when you got to do it again.
Right. Any other comments or thoughts or experiences that you would like to share, that anyone out there would like to share? And I'll check both the session and the event.
Stephen, I had one more question for you. Is a little bit of personal experience. I worked with the Ballet Idaho on a project last year to implement a health insurance benefits package with them. It was closed due to COVID, so it never got implemented. But one thing that I struggled with was how do you determine scope creep versus the need for a change management approach? Because sometimes at that such small level, you might need something in left field, but aren't totally sure if it will pay dividends. I mean, you think it might. For instance, I had to like use data on employee hours to determine amount of full-time equivalents for the Affordable Care Act. And I wasn't sure at the time whether or not that was going to be useful or just, again, out in left field and causing scope creep that didn't need to happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really only scope creep if it's not part of a formal change process. So if it comes forward and folks want to add something, they want to change something, you have a change process in place, and then the change is approved and it's worked into the project, then it's just a change to the project. What you don't want is the things that just keep getting added and added and added, and then you're it's unwieldy and the project's no longer focused in the direction it was to begin with. But so that's where I differentiate scope creep is when it's a non-approved change that's being pushed forward as opposed to a change that's been discussed and decided upon.
Got it.
Was your question, Ben, more around like how do you know when you need to put in a formal change management process?
I think that would complete my question. Yes.
I would say always, right, Stephen? It's everything is always changing, right? So in my experience with whether it be for profit, not for profit, whatever, there's always change happening to your project, and you have to be ready to deal with that. So whether it's some big formal, process that needs multiple people signing off on it, maybe that's where you can, tailor it back to be a lightweight change process, but you always need a change process.
Yeah, and you want to make sure everybody feels like they're heard, that they're part of the project. So when somebody brings something out from left field and as a project manager, no way, you still want to have some sort of process so that they get a hearing and they feel like they were at least listened to, especially with these smaller nonprofits and volunteer groups.
And it looks like we do have a question in the chat from Kenneth. It says, do you have people push back on following a PM process and just want to do the work and not talk about the process? How do you persuade them to the PM method?
Oh, that never happens, right? You get the pushback, maybe more so even than a traditional for-profit organization. You certainly get it, especially with people that's like, I'm already busy enough. I don't need to fool with your stupid form or your change process. I've got to get this done. It's got to be done by Tuesday. Get out of my way. A lot of times I have to work with their leadership. If I'm not over the group, if it's not the group that I'm the leader of, if it's a client, I have to work with their leadership and coach them how to persuade those folks to come on board. That's also an opportunity where you want to make sure you have a relationship with the project sponsor, so you can go a little bit higher up if their project manager needs a little bit of oomph or a little bit of muscle, frankly, because you oftentimes can see the risk before the project managers at the organizations do. They've been dealing with Paul for years. He's driven them crazy. They've learned how to work around him, but you recognize that he could be a risk to the project. So you've got to kind of act as their guardian angel on that and try to persuade the project management and the value of it and sell on those small wins. But sometimes, bring in the muscle. Let the vice president, let her come in there and help encourage folks. That's what they're paid for.
This is great discussion. These are good questions.
Yeah, that was a good question. All of them are great questions. And a lot of it you see in regular project management. It's not much different, except that maybe it just needs a little softer touch when you're dealing with volunteers or folks that are not getting paid a lot to do a job that they feel is important.
Anything else anybody wants to share or talk about? We've had great discussion so far. We definitely appreciate all the questions and the comments and sharing your own experiences. All right. Well, then I will say thank you so much again, Stephen. We really appreciate you bringing this topic, you sharing from your knowledge, your experience, your background. your education. And we look forward to, seeing what the interest is from our PMI Western Idaho Chapter community, to see if we can possibly partner with some, or offer some support, or find some way that we can continue to impact our community. So, and thanks for your interest in being a part of that and helping us with that. So we really appreciate you. We are so thankful to all of you who attended tonight. Thank you so much. And please join us next month, and make sure that you're reading all the mailers that go out. There's a lot happening. PMI WIC is always doing something. And so make sure that you're a part of what we're doing. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.